your name. I really want to know your name. I want to know your name. What's your number? Girl, I really want to get to know ya. I want to know your name.
WEFM, the new fresh sound.
WhatsApp us or call us at 457-9997. Activated Mornings on WEFM 99.9 is on now.
And we're back with you for another commentary segment here on our Activated Mornings program on WEFM. In studio, it is Dianna, Cain, myself, Roleza Samuel, and in the virtual studio, we are joined by Nicole Joseph Chin. Today is Monday, so we're also supposed to be joined by Doc. So I guess he will join us when he joins us. All right. So we're going to be talking on a topic. Boy, a little heavy, but it needs to be spoken about. All right. So our topic this morning is when school children don't act like children. So we're going to be looking at two matters with relation to prosecution and a bullyproof campaign that was launched in Jamaica. So let's start on the home front. So in reading a story from Eyewitness News titled "Students Still in ICU 1 Week After Being Stabbed at School." So a 15-year-old student of the North Union Secondary School was still in intensive care unit at the Milton Keynes Memorial Hospital on Saturday, 1 week after he was stabbed in the head at school. The Form 2 student went unconscious after one of his classmates, a 16-year-old boy, allegedly stabbed him in the head on the 3rd of October. His recovery is going slow, the injured student's aunt, Joy Ballantyne, told Eyewitness News. She said that the student had regained consciousness and the hospital has since moved him from the main ICU to the pediatric ICU where his care continued. Ballantyne told Eyewitness News that her nephew has been a victim of bullying at the school. She said that her nephew has repeatedly complained about the student who injured him, constantly accusing him of having the same condition that led to his mother's death. So the stabbing incident occurred. The stab went in about 5 centimeters. It cracked his skull and went into his brain. This is what the aunt told Eyewitness News. She said he is coming along, but he's not 100%. She said that the injured boy was still physically weak and bright lights affect his eyes. His recovery is very slow. She said the police had taken the other student into custody, but later released him without charges. And on Saturday, Assistant Commissioner of Police with responsibility for crime fighting, Trevor Buju Bailey, told Eyewitness News that no charges had been laid in the matter. He said the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution decides if or when to bring charges in such matters. All right, so this is a story here out of St. Vincent and the Grenadines in relation to a stabbing incident, involving school children, both the victim and the perpetrator or alleged perpetrator being of school age, and this happening on school grounds. Now, for those who may have been noticing within the news, particularly in Trinidad, there have been calls for children, juveniles, to be tried for certain offenses because in the eyes of many, school children are not acting like school children. And reading this from The Guardian, from Homeland Security Minister Roger Alexander, he said if children are going in a particular direction, they cannot be seen as children. Some of them come from good homes and structured backgrounds, yet they willingly engage in criminal activity. We have to face the reality. The minister's comments come amid national debate on how the justice system should treat juvenile offenders. All right. So the article does continue a bit more, but I know that this was a topic of conversation in Trinidad last week in particular. Right. So now to start off this conversation, it is not a case where we are here saying that the student involved in the Vinci situation, in our situation, should have charges laid against him, right? That is going to be up to the justice system. We're not necessarily saying that, but in terms of the act that was committed, there is a strong possibility that charges should be laid or could be laid against that student. So we're just going to have a general discussion with regards to our thoughts on children being prosecuted, as well as an anti-bully or bully-proof campaign that was launched in Jamaica, given that in our Vinci story, the child or the victim was also a victim of being bullied. So who wants to open the floor?
I don't know, but these are very tough situations. It's tough when you're dealing with a child as an offender and a child as a victim. And it brought me back to the conversation we were having the other day about if parents should become involved in issues with children, because it's rough to have to be at home or at work and hear that your child was stabbed in the head, or your child this has happened to your child, or that has happened to your child. One of the things that they keep saying is that the children are not acting like children, and I don't think that we are focusing on that part as much as we should. Instead, we're focusing on how do we punish them and what do we do at that point when they have committed the things that they have committed, whether it's bullying or some serious harm to somebody else. We wait until it gets to that point to start looking for solutions. But I think we need to really, really seriously focus on why the children are not acting like children. What is causing the children to not act like children? Why? And that is the only thing that's where I'm stuck. I noticed this BullyProof campaign. I have to be honest, I don't fully understand what it is they're trying to do, because as I was reading it, I was thinking, why this song like something that's already in place everywhere? Why it doesn't sound new? But for something like that, I want to see when they actually roll it out and see how it goes to know if it is really going to be effective. Because to me, maybe I interpreted it wrong, but it just sounds like another set of talking to me, which bores children, to be honest, and some adults too. So I have to see it in action to know if is it really something that they're going to use to actually solve the problem, or just another thing to look important and sound like we're doing something.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Nicole?
As Dianna says, it's a sticky situation when you start thinking about punishment for young people, particularly as adults. But before that, we do have to find out what is the environment, what is the social environment that is triggering and perpetuating some of these, what you might call deviant behaviors. And sometimes we also have to look at the systems within which they are in. Is it that the education system particularly is too advanced for them? Is there a remedial space where they can actually learn at a different pace? Because sometimes education in its competitiveness can sometimes also contribute to behavioral issues. And in such a space, whilst you can't always control the entire system, there might be ways to segment. And that segmentation might also be a way to do some analyses, and those analyses will then look at things like behavior, strength, capacity, abilities, skill sets, and of course, background. But when it starts to go into that conversation again about treating children's criminal activities, and I'm using the word because that's what it turns out to be, it's a crime against each other or perpetuation of a crime. What you find is that if the system is already not in favor of speed and adjustments that will address fast judicial outcomes, putting a child through that system is going to cause a longer effect of things like waiting on justice. And it's also going to have other labels. You have to remember something too. Children's minds, yes, they've done
something that is ugly and unkind and most times wrong, but their minds are also not developed yet in many instances. And inside of that developmental dialogue, we have to think about what happens to them if they are placed into a system that is not inside of their category of development. So again, it comes back to the bigger picture. I always like to look at the big picture because it starts to help to solve what might be the little problems. And it's not that it's a little problem, but you take it step by step. We can't eat the whole elephant, but you take little bites.
You can't eat the whole elephant. I've never heard that one before, Nicole. All right, but I get you. All right. As I said, this is a bit of a heavy topic for me, right? Because when it comes to children, you want to have this angelic picture of them in your mind when the reality is that not all of them are angels, right? As a parent, as a guardian, you might think that you are raising an angel, but when they go into school, it's a different story, right? It's a completely different story that you hear from the principal and a completely different story you hear from teachers. And if you talk to maybe some of their peers, that's the same thing that is happening, right? One of the things that I've noticed with children of late, and I was trying to figure out if this was the same thing that happened when we were going to school, but that children these days seem very aggressive. And the aggressiveness doesn't just start, and of course, it's not just going to be them being aggressive, but it has to be the environment. So when I look at it sometimes, is it a case where we as a society, are we very aggressive? And I would like to say yes to that, right? So children are going to emulate, whether in speech or in actions, the things that they see adults do. Yeah. Another thing when it comes to children is that, and Nicole hinted at it as well, is that because they're so young, they don't know necessarily how to control their emotions because they're still...
And even adults have problems with controlling emotions at times, and their children.
And that's the thing. So maybe for us as adults, we might stop and think of consequences. The greater majority of us might stop and think of consequences, but children don't. Children are very impulsive. And for something like this to happen where, number one, the child was bullied, and then now this action has occurred, part of me wonders, what is it that is happening, or what was happening in the life of the aggressor, right? Was it a case where he himself, well, I'm saying he, maybe that's wrong for me to say. Did the article say he, by the way? Because I'm using he and I don't want to be incorrect. Okay, so just at the students. All right, so this student, I have to question, what was it that was happening in the life of that student for them to maybe take out their frustration or whatever on that other child who became the victim, right? Now, when it comes to the issue of pressing charges, I can't necessarily fault the parent or the guardian in the case for, excuse me, for wanting to do so, because as Nicole also said, it's a criminal act that was committed. You are sending your child to school, you're expecting that this child is going to be in a safe space, not become, and this child could have possibly died, right? Yeah. Could have possibly been killed as a result of it. So that is also another factor where if the parent or guardian does choose to press charges, I can't fault them, but I will continue my point after. Kojo, morning.
Good morning. Let's not fool ourselves. There's things we call learned behavior. Kids do what they see. They learn from other people. And if we as an adult do not hold this thing seriously and keep checking on our kids and all that stuff properly, we're not going to achieve much. I'm telling you. It's not even in St. Vincent. It's all happening here too. And going back to where we were talking about the crime and thing, what is it? Stitches, snitch gets stitches?
Snitches get stitches?
However he's saying, from the time that slang, however it is coming to being, the whole police thing break down. Because everybody, I ain't snitching. I remember when I grew up, when a man commits a crime and run down in my area, we point out, look him gone there, within 4 years, we say, look on there. He's the man who steals his stuff, we point out. So they nobody want to point out to nobody. Everybody want to be each other. You see, this friend thing come a little bit too common now.
And there's
Everybody
also
want to be each other's friend.
and there's also a street code where persons don't talk. So yeah.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you have all these things with people afraid, some people afraid to actually sit in it. Some people want to talk, but they're afraid the man will come back and shoot them. The man might come back and do this, so they ain't saying nothing. So some people is definitely afraid. We got too much of stuff that we don't want to talk about. Even in family structure, the spouse, the spouse doing certain thing to your children, you don't want to talk to it because if the money cut off on this, it's too much of we don't want to talk about. We need to start to be more open. We open ourselves, open, talk to the police. Yes, some police is stupid. Some police is being stupid. All over the world, police is being stupid. Not just in St. Louis, all over the world. But that doesn't stop you from making your community safe. Because if one police ain't want to do what you say, you go to another one, and another one, and another one until you get what you want. All that ain't no turning you down. Trust me. We need to we need to stop this thing that we can't talk to police because police will do. Put it in the newspaper. Blast it. You don't have to put it in newspaper to print stuff for you. Go on Facebook, blast it. You don't have to go to police. Blast it on Facebook, blast it. Let you blast other people's business. And find people out and tell people what other people do. Tell people police what other people don't do. Not just holding back. We need to open up ourselves and tell the children what's wrong and what's right. A lot of parents going to fight teachers. Teachers can't direct the children and them. When you do those things, you're not teaching your child nothing. You think you're teaching your child something? You're teaching your child not to respect nobody, nothing, no authority. And then when police actually beat them up on the road, they come, my one good son. But you leave your one good son to go bad. That's why police after him. Oh, come on, man.
All right, Kojo. Yeah. All right, thank you. All right, so we have another call coming through. Hi, Serena, morning.
Hello.
Good morning.
Was they from school? I don't know how true it is, but he come and tell me. He say he got this teacher, not calling the school name and not calling anybody's name. I don't want to get in trouble. He said the teacher, I don't know what they was doing, if they was playing. He said he and somebody was playing, and the teacher come and the teacher ball upon him. And he asked the teacher, so we have behaved so far. And the teacher coming up in his face, and he backing away. And he tell the teacher, don't come up in my face, because if I hit me, they're going to go hit you back. He said, the teacher tell him he dunce. And he step back 4 times. He said, me not step back 4 times and no call me done. He said the teacher tell him he gonna send a gunman for him. Hey morning, he gonna send a gunman for him. And he's not the only one the teacher tells, right? The teacher tell other guys too, other boys too. So I don't know how true it is. The father go by the school, the father didn't get no satisfaction. The father say gonna take it to ministry this morning. So I really felt it for that he was reading with that little boy. I really felt it for him. Because I have grandchildren. I really felt it. No teacher is supposed to tell no student they're gonna send gunman for them. I don't know how true it is, you know. I don't believe it. I don't know how true it is, but no teacher shouldn't tell the students. He said he go by the office and he asked for the principal. And whosoever they told him, the principal, he said the principal When the principal was your own big man. You're supposed to tell a student, if a student come to make a complaint to the principal, you tell them he have somebody inside and hold on. But you ain't supposed to tell a child so. Come on.
All right. So I hear where you're coming from, Serena, in terms of what the teacher's response was. But I think initially, even that in that interaction, your grandson's alleged response to the teacher initially may not have been the best, if I have to call a spade, right? Because a child is not supposed to tell a teacher what you're carrying on so far, right? I don't think that is the way in which a child is supposed to respond to an adult, especially an adult in a position of authority, right? So I think the whole thing probably just escalated from there. But I still would say that ultimately, if the teacher did say that with regards to the gunman thing, then that is completely inappropriate. So, yeah.
Well, the teacher said he first threatened her. So she said he ain't check the teacher tell him he's going to send a gunman for him. So I don't know because I was not there. I was not there, so I don't know. So.
All right. Okay. All right. So hope that is looked into.
Okay then.
All right. So bye. So let's take our final call in this segment and then we will head on out. Dave, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Wow. Today's what? Monday morning. And look at what I'm getting up to. Look at what I'm waking up to. But when I speak like this,
Dave, before you continue, when was your birthday?
My birthday ain't come yet, the 20th of October.
Oh, is it 20th?
So get ready, right?
Okay. Sound like I'm going on a date, boy. All right, Dave, go ahead.
20th of October. Anyhow, I am not surprised. Listening to all, I never went overseas to live. I went overseas, I observed different societies and that sort of thing. But when all is said and done, is we as a people, as Vincentians, who born here, live here, and behave other than human being. And some of us don't like to face the truth or don't like to talk about what is happening in our society. This ain't just this to here where we reach now is not a one-man solution. No one man got the solution for this. And first to begin with, we are too divided as a people, right? Some of us live, and it ain't now, I saw when this thing was coming upon us, I saw how we were deteriorating. But some of us still ain't have the kind of sense we're supposed to have. We are not that intelligent. We don't have no foresight or vision and so on. So when some of us talk, we can't make no headway because the majority have the say, or it's like they run things, but not everything the majority say is right. You understand? And this is not, now it has reached a stage, it's not going to be an easy solution. And we have had examples from the bigger islands. Here you have the Trinidadian lady there. Trinidad and Tobago has been a good example. Jamaica has been a good example of breakdown in the civilized, whatever they uphold as civilization and so on. Our Prime Minister is talking about civilization, but I still have questions to ask. Are we on the right path? And then the church, I don't know. I don't want to blame the church, but the church has a role to play. The church is not what it used to be in terms of having authority or having any kind of impact on our society today, right? So a lot of foreign cultural penetration. Some of us bring back our bad habit. We go overseas and you know, and we look for the negative. It would seem as though we look for the negative vibes and so on. So sweet St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I say sweet St. Vincent and the Grenadines as it used to be in my time, it's not like that anymore. So we have to go overseas now. And that's why we always have to invite experts or hear somebody coming here to tell us how to behave ourselves, how to conduct our. So what happened to us? What happened to us? What happened to Roleza? What happened to Dianna? They know good from bad.
All right, Dave.
They can't teach one another something of substance. And what about being God-fearing? Are we still a God-fearing people? I doubt. Thank you. Have a good day.
You too, Dave. All right, so we just going to wrap up to end off this segment. So the part that I got to with regards to the parent or guardian possibly pressing charges, right? I can't tell them that they shouldn't. But on the other hand, it's also a challenge for me to see somebody very young who has, done a criminal act, have this weight hanging over them for, the rest of their life, because society doesn't forget, right? I may not necessarily remember that Dianna did something 20 years ago, but somebody is going to end up reminding me about it. So, it's one of those things where, as human beings, whether you are a child or whether you're an adult, you have to face the consequences of your actions. And you are going to be the one who has to live with whatever those consequences are, right? Just to end off with what Dave said there. The church is not what it used to be. I do have to ask the question, is this the church's fault? Or is this the fault of parents? Because if parents are no longer sending their children to church, the way in which they used to when I was growing up, not that I went to church, my mother would blast Christian programs as a form of me going to church. But back in the day, children had to attend church. There wasn't a question about it. So if parents are no longer sending their children to church, is it the establishment of the church's fault, or does it go back to parents? So just food for thought with regards to that. So any final thing from Dianna or Nicole?
Do we believe the church or returning to the old ways of the church will help to solve these problems? That's just a question thrown out there. Somebody commented, what happens before they reach into the system? And the person said, this is what happens when children are having children. They grow in single parent homes, some of them without much guidance, not just in St. Vincent alone. They also say our society allow lots of men to impregnate these teenage girls without being made to feel the force of the laws.
All right. So with that, hold on, don't take it out yet. With that, that point about children making children, our grandparents made our parents as children themselves too. So it's not just a new thing that is happening in society. What that I can agree with is that once somebody is underage, it's statutory rape. And if laws are not, if the full force of the law doesn't come down on that particular man, then I can have an issue with it. But children were making children back in the day. It's just that they had more of a hand in terms of raising these children. I also don't necessarily see anything wrong with being raised in a single parent family. But again, that also does depend, because I was raised in a single parent family. At no point in time have I ever decided to commit a criminal act, right? And as I've always said before, would I prefer to have been raised in a single parent household with my mother going through whatever challenge and struggles that she went through, as opposed to be raised in a two-parent household where my mother could have possibly been being abused or being cheated on and all sorts of other factors, right? In me as a young girl witnessing that and maybe my mother staying with that, then no, give me my single parent household any day. So there are different factors. It's not just about the single parent home or those other things. So just something to point out there. Nicole, any final words?
Actually, I was about to say, I was just going to jump in and defend that single parent dialogue, because sometimes it's a safer place depending on the situation. And as you rightly said, our grandparents and great-grandparents were children generally, and they had, young pregnancies and that kind of thing. But it's really totally environmental, and it's environmental on many levels. It's the home environment, it's the social environment, it's the educational environment, and it's, of course, the legal environment. There's so many layers to this conversation. And as you started with saying, Roleza, it's a tough one. And it is tough because everyone, and I think it was Dave that said it, we have to really collectively do this. It's not an isolated discussion, it's not an isolated action. It really has to be collective. But the other thing, it has to be consistent. We have to have inside of a school space, I know order has broken down, but a parent can't be going to fight a teacher all the time. A parent can't be threatening teachers. We have to understand the roles that adult caregivers give in certain environments, and we have to become a more respectful society, and it's everywhere in the world. And I think it might have been Dave as well that said, we bring back some of the bad habits, that not necessarily the more positive ones, or we emulate them from what we see. And sometimes again, we talked about the church. The church is not totally responsible. So I find sometimes we don't have to put the burden on everyone else. When we have to start looking at ourselves more.
But I do agree with you. We sometimes do this pass the blame situation way too often. All right, so we are going to head on out of this segment and be back with more Activated Mornings here on WEFM.